brilliant, brilliant.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Oh, one moment. Hold on, one moment. Just there we go. Okay, okay.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
A little wild today, but otherwise good.
How are you wild?
Just my hair came out very wild. You see?
Oh, well, my hair comes out wild.
So I don't have to be wild to match it a little bit, I guess. So
That's all right.
I'm always wild, actually. I'm pretty
Oh,
wild.
there you go. There you go.
That's just
Yes,
the
I
way it
think
comes
that's true.
about, you know.
That is very
Always
true.
been a bit wild.
That's all right. That's a good thing.
But
That's a
yep,
good
it
thing.
works for me. It works for me.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Well, that's the
All right.
important thing.
Oh,
That's
yes. Everything good with you? All brilliant and awesome.
fantastic. It's kind of busy and a lot going on.
Yeah. Good.
But
Good.
very good. Very good. And um, it's coming along. It's, there's a lot to do, but but it is coming along, and we've been painting. There's still some painting to do. Actually, a fair amount.
Mm, mm.
And then Joe is working on getting the sink put in, and he's doing some plumbing work in there, and he's doing some
Goodness.
electrical
Goodness.
for lighting and working in the bathroom. And we've been looking for like antique or vintage or whatever piece of furniture that we could use for like a vanity in there, where you
Right, right.
kind of cut a hole and put the sink in the top of an
Yeah.
piece of furniture.
Yeah.
And it's a small space, so we're looking for something. If we can't find something, then Joe can put something together. But the
Yeah.
look of the old cabinet turned into a vanity is really cool. So we're trying for
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and we have to figure out the closet configuration and all of
Mm,
that.
mm.
So that's a big thing. And then the really big thing is going to be the heat and air, which Joe told me the other day he's going to try to do himself, which
Ah.
I think is like a really big project. But
Yeah, but it's
yeah,
not. It's big, but not complicated or difficult. As in, technologically difficult. It's fairly simple, even though it's big. So,
oh, I can
okay.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because the video is not connected to the sound, so I may drop off for the video, but the
Oh,
sound
okay.
still works.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. I
I
was saying the heating, it's not technologically difficult to do. It just is a big job, but not actually particularly difficult to do.
right. Well, I don't know. I have never been around that. I've never
Time and
um
energy.
never
Yeah,
tried it, or seen anybody.
I mean, really, heating and air, it's just the tubing and
Right,
piping
right,
and stuff, that you connect to the source of it, which is that's it
right.
really.
Well, it will be
Just
interesting.
ventilation.
I think it's always interesting and harder to do things in an old building.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, uh,
yeah.
and this building is so odd. I mean, it's a like concrete block structure.
Ah, interesting.
And
This is you're talking about the apartment on top of
right,
the garage?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and there's just all kinds of old weird things. And then, people have made changes and not always done it in a really great way. And,
Yeah.
so he's finding all kinds of, you just find all kinds of funny things
Yeah,
once you start tearing
yeah, yeah. You
up in
find
an old
surprises.
building,
You find
you know.
surprises.
Like,
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah. So
anyway,
there's
but
progress.
there's a
That's
lot
the
going
thing
on.
that I focus on.
There is.
That's
Oh yeah,
that's the
there's a
key. There's
lot.
progress. It's constant progress. So
Absolutely.
if you just
Absolutely.
extrapolate the past process into the future, you'll get there. No
Oh
worries.
yeah, it is happening. I'm amazed at the two of them and how they,
Yeah. Yeah.
work together, and each
It's
person has
fantastic.
their own things that they're good at, and
Yeah.
you know, and I Joe just amazes me how
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah. Yeah.
just takes on
Right.
so you know
And once one and takes on one big project or does something that you haven't done before, and you realize you can do stuff even if you know nothing about it at the start, then you're empowered and it's not a big deal after that. You do it a couple of times, it's become second nature. It's like, hey, I'll just figure it out.
Sorry. um
Easy.
I can turn that off. Okay.
All
um
right. So where are you at? Let's hear all the notes and takeaways and repeat backs and magic and awesomeness. I'm keen to hear.
well, okay, let me say that I've been
Mhm.
working on the me of then and me of now. And
Yes.
I've been working on trying to come up with something for a post. And it's harder than I thought it would be.
Wow.
And I'm going in like there's two or three different directions that it's taking me in. And
Mm.
so I have pieces over here and pieces over there. And it's not totally come together for me, but I'll show you what I have so far.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we go over it, then almost inevitably this adds some measure of clarity and helps with direction and things like that. So
Right, right. Um, well, and it's really sad because I am trying really hard to do everything on the computer instead of having little pieces of paper everywhere. And
nice, 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 nice.
it is, I mean, I've been working on that for a long time. But it is interesting how your brain you really have to retrain your brain. It's so funny. I remember when I first started trying to make a grocery list on my phone instead of on a piece of paper, and it was really hard. I mean, obviously it's not hard to type a list into a phone, but
Right,
it's
right.
it's just your brain, just my brain.
You use a different brain.
It's total, yeah, it's just so different. And
Yeah, the computer uses your left brain and your writing uses your right brain.
so it's just you're really having to work to retrain.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um so I'm trying to do my notes and everything totally on the computer, and um just the organizational part of it in my head is this a little bit more of a struggle. So I have pieces of it here and there and everywhere. So
No worries. No problem at all. Never ever.
and uh oh, Sarah, stop, 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 stop. Um, so one thing that I did, and I don't know exactly how to show you this. Maybe I can
I just do screen share.
well, I don't even know how to do screen share.
It's very simple.
Let
Click
me
on screen
find,
share at the bottom of your Zoom window.
okay, well, hang on here. Let me scoot this over. Um, well, one thing I'm having trouble with. All right, I'm just going to show you what I've got here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me put it over here. Um, Screen share screen. Okay. Uh,
It's usually green.
yeah.
Maybe under more. Okay, you got it. And then you
Oh,
have
I
to
did
just
it.
click. Okay. So screen share, and then it'll bring up another window. You just hit, share or whatever the thing is, because it usually defaults to
Oh,
sharing
I
your
see. I
screen.
see. Here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Maybe could we try this one instead? Maybe that. Let me try it. See what happens. Share. Let me
You
scoot.
just need it's just a confirmation screen to say you want to share the screen as opposed to a specific program or whatever. So in the bottom right hand corner, just click on that or hit enter. It's usually
Okay.
well, default should be
Can you
that.
not see anything?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
Does it say you sharing your screen?
Yep.
Okay, just a bit slow then. So I'll just wait a little while.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna scoot it over here a little bit. Ah,
Yeah, it just may be slow. So when it's slow, it can take a little while to share.
well. All right. So what I did was I decided to make word art. Word art.
Mm,
And so I did a me of then word art and a me of now.
wow,
And
very exciting.
so let's see if I can go back. You can't see anything yet?
Mm-mm.
Well, that is really weird. Your screen sharing is,
It
oh,
says stop screen share at the top of your screen.
it says you are screen sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop, and
I just have to wait then. That's all.
it
Hmm.
also says stop share. So I
Yeah,
can go
yeah.
ahead.
So then you are sharing. Yeah. So we just have to wait. It hasn't updated for me yet. Even though I'm seeing, yeah, on the phone it says you've started screen sharing. So there
Mm.
you go. On the phone it's come through.
Well, that's good.
That's pretty amazing. So stop. Yeah, yeah. Um, make it a little bigger here so I can see what's going on. All right. So I just see the heart and
Okay. So the first one, the top one, is the me of then. And um I haven't really done word art before. I just got this idea that sounded, that would be something interesting. And so I tried it. This is my first attempt. And they had these shapes. And this one, the me of then, um, has an empty heart in the middle, which I thought was, symbolic. So I put in these different words, and it is monochromatic. And I don't know if you can read all the words that I have there, but inappropriately positive, awareness bubble. All right. Well, I'll tell you what they say. Right. It is words. All the okay. Inappropriately positive, awareness bubble, reactive, indecisive, immature, defensive. Um, that might be all. And then it takes those words and just repeats them all around and makes the shape out of it. Um, and those were just, some of the bubble thinking that. And so then I made this one, which was a different shape that was the complete heart, and it was all different colors. So I did each word was a different color, and the biggest word is practical idealist. Um, there's aware, deliberate, zoom out, transforming, growing, maturing. Um, I can't remember if there's any other. I think those are all the words that I used. Right. I don't have it in there, but Sarah, stop. I need you to stop. Okay. I want you to play with your toy, but the licking has to stop. Okay. Just too gross. Ugh. Anyway, what was self-trust. So I just thought of I listed, and this is on a different, I think maybe up here somewhere. I listed some of the things that seem to be really important to me and that have changed for me. And my original idea was to take these and put them side by side, like they do in the, I was telling you about how fascinating it is to me in the Weight Watchers thing that the people don't recognize themselves in photos, and that they have, they, oh gosh, it seems like every day they have something. Transformation Tuesday, side by side Saturday, whatever. And and people post, an old picture and a new picture. And it's a big thing. And it allows you to see your yes, exactly. They do like a little um face to face Friday. Um oh. Yeah. So anyway, the point is I can't figure out how to manipulate these images so that they will, when I put them in side by side, it cuts them off. It narrows them and you can't see the whole thing. So I'm working on that. That's just a learning thing.
There you
But
go.
when I
No
do
worries.
that, it cuts them off and makes them
Ah,
uh, where you can't see the whole thing. And
mm,
so
mm.
I'm working on figuring that out.
Yeah. Oh, you will. Oh, you will. You will.
But there's a couple of different ways that I'm working through this whole thing. And I mean, your poem for me was talking about, I mean, the majority of it
Mm,
was looking back at past me and realizing
yeah.
that that's not really me anymore. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so that's one aspect of it. The idea of past me and present me
Yeah.
talking to each other
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
interesting way
Yeah.
to think about it.
Yeah.
But I kind of
Yeah.
started
Yeah. And
focusing,
not only is, oh, sorry, just interrupt you 1 second. Not only is um past me not me, it never was me,
right,
and also it is no longer me. It's just
right,
not relevant anymore.
right.
So yeah, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Yeah.
Well, it is a big deal. And so that led me to thinking, I guess I'm for some reason I'm really fascinated by the fact that these people go through this transformation of, their weight.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um, and they
And it
don't,
changes their psychology. Yeah.
well, it can and it should. And I think
Yeah.
interestingly, that's what Weight Watchers has really made a huge change. And I think, Oprah bought Weight
Yeah.
Watchers a while back,
Oh, she
and
did. Ah,
she
she
is the
bought.
one that's
Oh,
making all
interesting.
these. Well,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know if she bought
it's
it,
not
but
the
she
habits,
is
the
is
physical
a
habits. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Go. Go.
right.
Yeah.
In the past, Weight Watchers
Yeah.
focused on eating
Physical
and
habits. Right.
on the
Yeah.
food, and people would lose weight, but then they would gain it right back. And so
Correct.
Oprah has really changed the focus to your mindset and
Yeah.
transforming
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
And
Psychological habits. Right.
yes, and so and I think it's great. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
good. But
Yeah.
but still there are some people who only make the physical change and they don't really make the psychological change, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they don't recognize themselves. I mean, I just find that so interesting that
Yeah.
their mind, they are still that other person.
That is
And
most fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, but it made me start
Yeah.
thinking a
Yeah.
lot about myself
Yeah.
and the changes and the transformation that I'm experiencing,
Yes.
and how important it is to recognize my new self as me, and not
Yes.
not see
Yes.
that old view of myself into
Yes.
the present time. And and we talked about this before, that it's like the alchemist. For me, that story is so much about transformation, and
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what
Yes.
the alchemy is symbolic of what happens to people, and the gold
Yes.
doesn't go back to being lead.
Yes.
It has actually made a change to something new. So I'm kind of concentrating on that, and I wrote, I guess you would call it a poem. I worked on it. I've worked on it and worked on it. I don't know that I'm finished yet, but and I don't know if you
You
could if you can
putting into application the transformative self-conception, right?
right. And it started, in your poem, you talked about a self-conception makeover, which that's what got me really started thinking that, and
Uh,
the
Say that again. The what from the poem?
self-conception makeover.
Oh, right, right, exactly,
Uh,
exactly, exactly. And we do
and
it. We do it in Way of Impeccability. We have that session on it.
well, have I done that yet?
Are you the spirit warrior? Are you this? Are you
Oh,
that?
oh,
Are you the
oh,
spirit
yes.
dancer?
Right, right,
That's the same
right.
thing. That's
Okay,
that's a self-conception makeover. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Um,
It's sorry to go sideways real quick. It's fascinating how the same thing come at from just a slightly different conception, a slightly different angle, a slight tweak in wording, and
mhm,
suddenly it grabs us. It's
yes,
fascinating,
I think
fascinating.
it's fascinating too. Yeah, I do too.
It's amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
I think, and I'm having trouble really sort of expressing what I'm saying. And I guess the Weight Watchers example is probably the best. That you know you have to do the work to lose the weight, and you have to actually physically lose the weight and go through the physical transformation. But
Mm,
you can't stop there. You
mm.
also have to see that you've made that transformation. You have to see yourself as that new person.
Yes.
And
Self-proof.
even if you even if you do the work and you make the
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
if you don't see that as you, it
Don't
doesn't
own it.
it doesn't make any difference. So I
Right.
started writing all these words like self proof and owning and all this stuff, and I started
Mm.
and I this is I don't know if you can see the screen, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll read it
See
to you.
lots of words.
Yes. Okay. I'll read you what I have.
Mm.
And so
No. Exactly. Exactly. And this is you asked, why does the program work? Understanding why it works, because it's premised on precisely that understanding.
right.
From my point of view, from the program point of view, we are continually emphasizing this, focusing on it, coming in from different. The old you was never the real you.
Right.
Never.
Somewhere in my notes, I wrote something like that about um let me see if I can find it. I think I did. Da, da. Since she went and got it. It's it's like a lollipop. I mean, she holds it with her paws and then licks it, And
She's caring for it.
I know. But it's just
So the maternal instincts coming out.
I know, but it's just sound of it. It's just like,
That's
ew.
funny that that sound would bother you so much. You think people,
Ah, I know. It's to me, it's funny that it doesn't bother other people.
yeah,
It's like, and it totally bothers Erica. And I don't know if I just put that on her, as a kid.
likely.
I don't know, but it's just like,
I mean,
ugh,
I don't know many people who are bothered by the dogs licking, so I don't
ugh,
know any except you, actually.
really? Oh my gosh, it just makes me go crazy. Oh dear. Anyway, let's see if I can come back to this. Okay. So, all right. So these were some of the ideas that I wrote down when I was um, just
Love
thinking.
it. I'll read through them. I want to hear them all. It's fantastic stuff.
Okay. I said self-awareness. Part one is transformation. And under that, I wrote, I am enough and I am more.
Mm-hmm.
Perspective shifting, self trust, the awful truth becoming the awe filled truth.
I
Uh,
like that. The all full truth. Very cool.
Appropriateness, the
I'm going to
universe.
use that. I always say awesome truth, but I haven't used all full truth. Very cool.
Um, the and I share a mutual intent to goodness. That's part.
Yes.
These are just things that are
Yes.
part of my transformation. Part two is self-conception, owning the
Mm,
uh,
mm,
who I am, not just what I do.
right. Right.
Thinking about my thinking, not just changing habits. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
for me that's like a really big thing. I think
Yeah.
it's more, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the way of impeccability is
Mm,
it's not just like a self-improvement, a
yeah. Yeah.
self-help
Mm,
thing.
mm, mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and I think it's easy to get caught up in that.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
you're just trying to kind of patch up something,
Exactly. No. No.
and
No. No.
that's not what this is. And it's
Right.
so for me that's really important. And I mean, not that you don't I mean, you should be working on changing habits and all that,
Mhm.
but that's not, it's way
Not
more.
the big goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Not improving on the old me, but becoming something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and that's when I came up with the idea of a butterfly is
Right.
not just a better caterpillar.
Exactly. It's a transformation.
Right. An
Exactly.
acorn, an
Exactly.
acorn to an
Yeah.
oak, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I was trying to think of different ones. Like I thought of well, I ended up with the diamond, but I was thinking originally about limestone changing to
Mm,
marble.
mm.
Um,
Wow.
because
Wow.
and those
Wow.
metamorphic rocks, there's
Wow.
metamorphosis in animals and insects, and there's metamorphosis in even in rocks. So
So
why would
limestone becomes marble. I didn't know that. Wow.
it's true. uh,
Wow. Well, it's a more like that.
yeah,
You draw on your geology. Love that.
right. um, and the interesting thing about that is the process of that whole thing, the metamorphic rocks,
Mm.
is that heat and pressure
Mm.
is what creates the change.
Right. Right. Right.
So, why would we think in ourselves? Why would we be sad or unhappy when things are difficult? Because that's sometimes what helps us make the change.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so,
Mm-hmm. So, um, what would way of impeccability terms be for heat and pressure?
we have impeccability for heat and pressure. Um, I don't know. I can't think.
Attention and emphasis.
Okay.
Uh, Extreme pressure would be overbending.
Ah, right. And that happens in rocks. That
Right,
happens a lot in
right.
rocks. Yeah.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly. Coal to diamond, it comes from extreme pressure,
right.
right?
Yes.
Well, I believe there's a stage in between coal and diamond. It goes through other.
Or something like that.
Hmm.
Diamond is a crystal, so it's a little bit different. But there's actually a chemical change that happens.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and
It's not just a rearrangement of the
right,
physical elements.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
You're not just getting compressed
Yeah,
limestone.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you're not getting, how sometimes something will happen,
right.
like in a sedimentary rock, sometimes rocks, in a river, there'll be a whole bunch of water with the large capacity of water to carry bigger rocks. If you have a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of water moving quickly, it can carry bigger
yeah,
things.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
that will happen, and it will be carrying these big rocks. And then when the water subsides, then the big pieces fall to the bottom. And
Mm, mm.
then it covers over with more silt. And eventually you get a rock that has these big chunks in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and but that is not the same as the chemical reaction that happens with metamorphosis.
Mm, mm. Yeah,
Marble
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
the limestone has actually
yeah,
changed
yeah,
chemically, and
yeah, yeah.
that is the transformation to me. That's
Yes, yes. And that's why you're talking about the difference between wave impeccability and the typical programs.
right, right.
They just add big lumpy rocks to you.
Exactly.
Which okay, there's value to it. It's not invaluable,
No,
but it's not the same thing as real change, real lasting change. And that's the other point.
right,
Some metamorphosis, might change you to something, sort of glass like this, kind of brittle and fragile,
right,
and that's no good either. You
right,
know, so it needs to be a lasting change, or it's a temporary condition. Like maybe it transforms under the river the moment you take it out of the water or the pressure, and then it just crumbles or whatever.
right,
So yeah, it needs to be real lasting change. Very important.
right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's kind of what I said. I said the transformation of myself has occurred and is occurring, but my awareness of the transformation needs to match the change itself. Without locking this in as actually being me, the changes are not permanent. Uh,
Right.
it's not just about habits, it's about self conception. This is me. This is who I
Mm.
am, not just what I do. And,
Yes.
a lot of times when
Yes.
you're just working on, trying to change your habits or whatever, it's that's what you do. And when circumstances change, for me, I will create these great new habits of eating and exercise and, all this stuff. And then something will happen and circumstances will change. And all those habits, are just sort of, up in the air. I mean, for instance, right now I'm here. So I've had to reestablish the habit of walking. I've had to, I'm changing the way I eat because I'm eating with Eric and Joe, and
Mm.
they are vegan. So
Yeah.
I'm having to make all these adjustments. So the habits that I had before, are kind of went down the drain, kind of, and I have to redo it. Um, which, I mean, and that's okay, and
Yeah,
that
yeah, it happens.
that
Change, adapting, being
happens all
flexible and
the time,
fluid.
and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
going to happen all the time, and you kind of want it
yeah,
to happen all the time in a lot of
yeah.
ways. But
Exactly.
if all you're worrying about is what you do, then you are asking for trouble. if all
Yeah.
you're trying to do is change what you do, you're not changing what
Right.
you think or changing who you
What
are.
you are. Yes, it's the
Oh,
being that's the issue. And
right.
we want to have a peculiar state of being.
Mm,
We want to have a state of being that is flexible, fluid, solid, and adaptable all at the same time.
flexible, fluid, solid, and adapt.
But all at the same time. Right. So we want to be like kind of a firm clay
Right,
where it holds its shape. It's resistant to change, but it's not stiff. It's not brittle. Right.
right,
Or okay, you might have steel, which is not brittle. It's hard, but it's so hard it can't adapt to anything really. It can bend a little bit, but that's about it.
right,
So we want to have this ability to be able to transform as needed. Yeah.
right.
So, which is the ultimate alchemist. We want the
Yes,
alchemy of self, where we have the ability to transform as appropriate, as required. Yeah. Or, for instance, if it's necessary that we want to have stiffness or brittleness or
right.
hardness, then you can adapt to that. You can be that. You can be whatever's appropriate. This is our ultimate aim. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. So we want to have a being that's constant, but it's the constancy of the ability to be appropriate, the constancy of the ability to shift and change as needed. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Did I talk to you about, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's reminding me of this really cool concept that I learned in college. Um, let's see if I can think. Now I just lost the word that.
Keep going, keep going.
Um,
It'll come back.
all right, I'll keep going and explain it, and then the word will come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think I told you this, but it was a mind blowing, fascinating concept to me, and I learned it. I'm pretty sure I told you this. I learned it in this chemistry class that equilibrium is the term equilibrium.
I love
Uh,
equilibrium. Yeah, and equanimity. The
right.
concept of equilibrium within the self. This is one
Right.
of the things that we're talking about. Yes.
So he was explaining the concept of equilibrium as a in chemistry,
Mm,
and he said it's like having a bathtub with 5 inches of water in the tub,
mm,
and you have the faucet is on, open, water's coming
yeah,
out,
yeah,
and the drain is open.
yeah.
And equilibrium is when the amount of water that's coming out is the same as the amount of water leaving.
Yes,
And
yes.
so you always have 5 inches of water in the tub, but it's
Right.
different water all the time.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's changing, but it's also
Staying the same. Right,
maintaining, this
right,
constancy.
right,
And I
right.
was like, wow, and I mean
Yes, yes,
that's that's what I want to be. That's what I want to be. I want to
yes,
be
yes,
constantly
yes.
changing, but um,
Yeah,
maintaining that um,
right, right,
consistency and
right.
stability,
Yes,
whatever.
yes. Having that equanimity,
Equanimity.
which also the word equanimity adds this from an emotional point of view,
Right,
that you can also handle being buffeted.
right,
Like if the bath is shake, you can contain it and stuff like this. So, yeah, there's a lot to equanimity, and in most of your spiritual traditions, this concept is usually illustrated not with a bath, which is not so poetic, but with a river.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right,
So they always use the river as this example of
right,
of constancy and change both at the same time.
right,
And rivers are nice because in when it's not your rainy season, there's less water, floods. The banks expand, contract, stuff grows differently. So there's a lot more change with rivers, but yet it's always the same river.
right, 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 right. Which is, yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, Yes,
Siddhartha by Moreness, I believe it goes into that, if I remember correctly.
really. All right, I'll check him out. Okay, he's never been a favorite of mine, but I'm
Never been a fan of.
Herman Hesse.
Siddhartha is very different to his other books.
What's the name of it? The Daughter?
No, Siddhartha,
Oh,
like as in
Siddhartha. Oh,
Buddha's first name. Yeah, Siddhartha.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very different to all of his other books. It's very poetic, and it's very gentle. It's very soft. It's a lot of similarities in style, somewhat kind of to the Alchemist. So yeah.
Huh, well, I'll have to check it out.
Oh, the others are very cerebral and philosophical and more technical, kind of a bit hardish in a way. So yeah, very complex too. Some of them, relative to Siddhartha, it's like he's a different author. It's amazing.
Maybe he was. You never know.
Yeah,
I'll check it out. I will check it out. I mean, I think he's a good thinker. It's just, and it's been a
yeah,
long time since I've read anything of his. So, but it's good to go back and check,
yeah, yeah,
check on
yeah.
this.
And it brings that whole Eastern philosophy in a little bitty. And much of this concept that you're talking about, it's all about this to a large degree. So yeah,
Right,
yeah, very interesting. Yeah, but simplistic, but still pretty good.
right. Well, sometimes
Yeah,
that's okay. Um,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So here is my I've been working on this. I have not, and I've been working on let's see if I can find this other
I
thing.
keep going in those notes. You were there was so much more, and I didn't see the rest. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, the only thing I did, I just put this
Oh,
I was just popcorning ideas, which I read most of
excellent.
these.
Well, I like that popcorning ideas. Never heard that before.
At the teacher thing. Um
Wow.
when you have kids, it's like when you're trying to get kids to just talk and throw out ideas, and
Yeah,
they don't have to raise their hand, they don't have to have the right answer, they don't have, it's just,
yeah.
it's sort of like brainstorming but in a group,
It's
and
part of classic brainstorming. Yeah, yeah,
yes. So, which is a great thing, and I love to see kids do that, but
yeah, yeah.
all right, yeah, I think I read everything that I put on there.
Oh,
Let's go back to this one. This is where I looked up the words in the dictionary, which I talked to you about last time. Um,
one moment before you go there to the next stuff. I love Practical Idealist. I think it's just fabulous.
I like it, and it was so
Oh,
interesting. I was listening to.
going to add it to the program.
Oh, good. I was listening to Barack Obama. Brene Brown interviewed him in her
Oh,
Dare to Lead podcast, and it was so good. And he has a new book out, which I would really like to hear. But he talks a little bit about basically being a practical idealist. He doesn't use that term,
mm,
but
mm.
he
And
talks.
he is.
He is.
He is.
I know, and so I found that super interesting because I'm really been thinking about that myself, and I don't want to become not an idealist, but I do want to become more practical. And
Yes, and you
uh,
don't want to be all practical either.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so yeah, so his thoughts on that were really interesting, and he said when he was in college that he was more of just the idealist, and
Mm,
when he graduated from college, he became a community organizer,
mm,
very grassroots thing. And first of all, he said that the person that was kind of his mentor in that, and I think was his boss, told him that for the first month, he didn't want him to do anything except go around and listen to people.
oh, you go, capitalized hearing. Yeah.
Well, he talked, and he did. He talked about hearing and how important it is to really listen to what it is, don't go out and tell people what they should think or what they should want or what they should do or whatever. That
Yeah.
and really that being a leader is being a listener.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep. It keeps coming up with Janelle and Ryan, because the leadership's a big thing for them. So yeah, I've been emphasizing that for them. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it was I bet that book would be really interesting for them. So anyway, he talked a lot about that, and he said um that when he became a community organizer, that changed his outlook completely
Mm.
and made him more practical, and that
Yeah.
has stayed with him all the way
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, that it's important to have your ideas and your ideals and all of that, but it's also important to really listen to the people that you're talking to. Um, and he said it's also really important to recognize that humans are very complicated, complex beings,
Yeah.
and they don't fit into categories the way we would like them to. And
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that you're not always going, things are, when you're trying to do good, things are not always going to go according to your plan. And
Exactly. Yes.
that you have to be okay with,
Yeah.
you know, progress in small
Yeah. Yeah.
pieces and, things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was super
To
interesting.
be flexible, fluid, and adaptable. In other words, as
Well,
appropriate.
yeah, he talked about that. Absolutely. So yeah, it was really good. I would
Right.
like to listen to his book for sure. But
Fantastic. So
um,
I added practical idealist,
yes.
and I just want to ask you real quick. Do you feel that practical idealist is a synonym for spirit warrior?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Same
I
thing.
Yeah,
Spirit is the ideal, and the warrior is the practical. Same
right.
thing.
Exactly.
Exactly the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, strategy is phenomenally practical. Yes.
Yes, it
There
is.
you go. Courage. Things you typically now associate with the warrior. Courage,
Right.
strategy, discipline. All of these are phenomenally practical. Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of my own personal conceptions is a personal practical philosopher,
I like that too.
not a regular philosopher, but a practical philosopher, and on the personal level. Yeah. But practical philosophy, this is what and practical psychology also is what I implement. Yeah.
Right.
I'm a practical psychologist,
There you
not
go.
psychologist, psychologer, the difference.
Okay. What's the difference?
Well, a psychologist practices psychology that's been created, well, generally by somebody else. A psychologist,
Right.
somebody who's
Right.
implementing or applying the philosophy of somebody else. Yeah. It's
Uh,
not a distinction made, and it needs to be made. So I don't follow the psychological teachings of somebody else. I create my own, and I always have. I don't get much value out of what was created by others. I'll maybe use concepts here and there. I mean, we all use ego, which a lot of people forget was popularized by Freud, not invented,
yes.
popularized. The term was around from way back when, goes all the way back to the Greeks, I believe. But he popularized it as well as a lot of like the Oedipus complex and stuff like that. He
Right.
drew on Greek myths and things. Um, but still, he introduced the id and the superego, and he has lots of things, anal retention, stuff like that. So he did
Right.
introduce lots of stuff, but also he borrowed from lots of stuff too. But again, there's problems and flaws, and
Of course.
yeah, yeah,
Somewhere, let me look here because somewhere I wrote, um, something about, see, this is my problem. I've got too many things.
It's all
Mission
right. While you look for that, I wanted to say one of the key problems with psychology is their lack of overview perspective. It's astonishing.
true.
This is what makes wave impeccability really potent. We zoom out, we look at the big overview picture.
Right,
Your self conception, it's not, you aren't redefining your self conception. Oh, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a this, I'm a that. No, you're taking it the big picture. You
right,
want to have that flexibility, that malleability, that alchemy of self that we described earlier,
right,
that equanimity that enables for you to have a vibrant, dynamic equilibrium and an adjustable equilibrium.
right,
Fine, the bath's at 4 inches, but what if you want it to be at 6? You
right.
have to be able to adjust either way. So this adjustability is our practical appropriateness. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, Camelius actually, and we were talking about awareness. How awareness is the point of everything, and then he said, "But what do I need awareness for?" I'm like,
Oh,
well, yeah, it's one of those questions that it's sort of taken for granted. It's obvious. And I
right,
had to think for a moment. I said, well, you want awareness so that you can be appropriate
right, right.
or more appropriate. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you might be appropriate in just your little bubble, but you're not necessarily appropriate in a bigger bubble. So you want awareness to be appropriate in all bubbles. So,
Right. Okay. That's a good synopsis there. To be appropriate, which I have read, and that's good to be reminded of.
yeah.
I was thinking, for some reason, I was thinking this morning about being, awareness bubbles, and um, I was thinking, and I don't know if this is true or not. You tell me what you think, but it seems like when we're in an awareness bubble that is pleasant, that's when we get stuck.
Yeah. Not just, but safe also,
Right,
and cozy. That's the word I think that you're looking for, rather. And
right,
because cozy combines sort of, yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh yes, coziness is great for getting stuck in emotion bubbles. And also, that coziness has so often an ego self-reinforcing mechanism involved. So you're in a bubble, and it reinforces your ego ideas that aren't necessarily all that valid, and this is what makes it attractive.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
yeah,
Uh, okay, well, I am, Erica's been thinking and talking a lot about expectations.
yeah. Very powerful power concept.
It
Expectations
is
is
a
massive.
really, it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing, and I was thinking about it, and I just wrote this stuff out here the other day thinking about it. I said, for me, expectations have been so often the cause of unhappiness and problems with others, which I think is true for everybody, but
Oh yeah, oh
um,
yeah, oh yeah.
thinking about my mom's expectations of me and vice versa, Erica's expectations of me and vice versa, Phil's expectations of me and vice versa.
Mm.
So often,
Oh, what about Kay's expectations of Kay?
oh, absolutely. Yes, yes.
Got to be on that list there, right?
All right, I'll put myself on.
Yeah, yeah, and vice versa too.
Yes.
Because this is about the me of now and me of then,
Right,
but it's also the me of now versus me of then, as in future me.
right, right,
Not just me of then is also future me.
right.
Yeah, it's not just past me.
Um, So often the problems occur because the expectations are really assumptions, and
Yes.
they are unspoken and not talked about, not, not out there working out. And I don't think, I don't remember if I said this in here, but actually Eric and I were talking about this yesterday. It's not bad to have expectations. I mean, expectations
Yes.
can be good,
Yes.
but and even if they're not appropriate or they're, whatever, if
Yeah.
where you get into trouble is when they are not said or not talked about, not expressed, not
Mm.
understood,
Unaware, in other words.
unaware, and sometimes, we're unaware of our own expectations, let alone unaware of other people's expectations. But um,
Mm.
I was just thinking about it, and I mean, it's amazing how many issues are caused by,
Yeah.
and this is really important to me. It's
Yeah.
important to me
Yeah.
in my relationship with Erica because
Yeah.
um, I think in the past we didn't talk about our expectations, and
Yeah.
it's really it's hard somehow. For some reason it seems hard, but it's something that's so important, and it's the way to change the trajectory of our family, is to talk about.
Yes. Yes. Your own as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Very
exactly,
cool.
obviously. um
Very cool.
and
Wow.
it occurred to me that whether they are unrealistic or realistic, it doesn't matter. um,
Mm.
Unmet expectations are always a problem. Even if your expectation is unreasonable, if you're expecting it, or even if it is reasonable, if
Yeah.
it is, if it's unspoken or unmet, then it's a problem. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. If it's
and
unaware. Yeah.
right, I said Phil often expressed his expectations. He was a lot better about expressing them than anybody in my family has ever been.
Mm.
But unfortunately, they were also really unreasonable. And
Mm.
so I didn't ever feel good about trying to meet them. I often did try, but it always ended up leading
Right.
to resentment and conflict because they were unreasonable, and
Yeah.
um,
But it put you off expressing yours
yes, absolutely.
because
Yeah.
you didn't want to end up appearing unreasonable. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
um, Mom, Erica, and I often did not talk about our expectations. I'm proud of Erica and
Yeah.
proud of myself for making an effort to change that. We need
Yes.
we need
Yes.
to look at our
Yeah. It's
old
brilliant. It's brilliant.
expectations and how they have done damage, but we also need to talk about our current expectations and our expectations of the future. Um, I think though, if you are doing that from a place of awareness, it doesn't expectations are can be a positive and
Oh yeah. Oh
not
yeah.
negative.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
that
yeah. Oh yeah.
flexibility, that fluidity and flexibility comes into it.
Yes.
when- I mean,
Yes.
here's my current expectation, but I'm willing to adapt and change that expectation
In other
according
words,
appropriate.
practical expectation.
Practical expectations, right?
Yes.
So,
But also, we want to have some idealism
right,
thrown in. So we want to have practical and, in parentheses, idealistic expectations. They are primarily practical, but they contain an element of idealism in them. Yes?
right.
Yeah. 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 Very, very necessary. Very, very necessary. Um, there's a nice nuance point also extra on this. I'll come to it in a moment. I just wanted to say, Rule number one of relationships for me is no expectations and no obligations.
Well, I don't think that's possible.
I know, and it's purposely put in there
Right.
to say, okay, no obligations. That's technically really hard to achieve, but then you try for the ideal, and you say no. Now you do as few obligations as possible. However, when we take this same understanding of obligations and apply it to expectations, expectations, we say, oh, no expectations, and we accept that as being possible. It's equally difficult as obligations
Oh,
to
yeah.
not actually have
Absolutely.
expectations. So both are an ideal to which we condense to the practical as best as we can.
Right.
Yeah. And when we do this, it vastly changes the relationship. It's massive in its transformation.
Right.
And this is a relationship with anything, with ourselves, with the universe, doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. All right. So on the nuance point with expectations, right? We are saying we want our expectations to be practical, realistic, sensible, but also somewhat idealistic, or at least have a measure of idealism in them, right?
Right.
Which means we are in our expectation, we are shooting for more, we are aiming for more. Yes.
Right.
And if we don't get that more, that's okay, because we've built in a bit of cushion because of the idealism, right? So part of our philosophy of expectation is not just to be thorough and careful and appropriate and pay exquisite attention to the setting of expectations. We are then, because everything's about application, we are also about the application of our expectations and the implementation of it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have setting, we have application, and then we have the after of expectations, which to me would be appreciation. When your expectations have been met or not met to whatever degree, I think it's important to go back and look and say, here was my expectations, this is what happened, and connect the two. Not only for the learning process of it to adjust your expectations to enable you to be more practical and realistic with the expectations, but also to say, I over expected and I did
Right.
so consciously. So all right, I expected to win the lottery and get 100 million, but I only got 10 million. Because I had an expectation for a Moreness, I got something which is also a Moreness. It's
Right.
not a lessness.
Right.
So then you appreciate this and you joy. Now you shifted from appreciating what you did get rather than being unappreciative of your expectation not being met because you
Right.
built that cushion into it. Yeah.
Yes.
So that cushion is a very, very, very big deal. In other words, that idealistic part of your practical expectation. It's necessary. It's necessary. It's a strategic necessity. Yes.
Yes.
And again, the end, the appreciation of the expectation is absolutely important from a psychological point of view, so that we can adjust, we can learn, we can grow, we can see, okay, next time, and we can refine our sophistication in setting of expectations and of implementing expectations, and lastly, of enjoying and appreciating those expectations. Yeah, the whole process, because otherwise we're going to live in a perpetual life of always having these open-ended expectations,
Right.
never reaching them, never fulfilling
Right.
them,
Right.
because the moment you get there, it didn't work, and you set a new one. No, we need to have this closure, this making things complete, and this coming to resolution with our expectations. It's very necessary to have our loop stay in equilibrium, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
so for me, I know these three stages of it. There are equilibrium stages, right? That's an infinity loop, but that infinity loop, of course, keeps growing and growing.
Right.
So it's very, very exciting. Yeah,
Yeah. Very cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
I like that. I like that idea.
yeah, yeah. It's very cool. Very, very cool. I love it.
Um,
I'm just applying your practical idealism here.
Yeah, I like it. I
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely like it.
Connecting things. Another reason why the program works. All I do is just connect the dots.
Right, exactly.
You provide the material. I just connected it now, didn't I?
Well, that's a good thing. That is a good thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Um, so I wrote, it's so important to realize that our expectations are our own responsibility.
Mm,
We can't really
mm.
blame others for not meeting our expectations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We need to
absolutely.
look at what really is, not what we want things to be.
Yeah.
And that's the realism part. And um, I was thinking a lot about myself in the past and
Well,
my past self, my false self,
yeah, yeah.
um,
The me of then.
the me
Yeah.
of then,
Mm,
um,
mm,
would, and that was, seen as idealism, but that's not really what it is. um, Looking at something and looking at it as the way I want it to be, not the way it really is. And I mean, there's
yes.
part of that, there is an aspect of that in idealism, but um,
Yes. In in
it's
in practical idealism.
practical idealism.
In
Um,
no, that's a measure of impractical idealism when it's
well,
unrealistic. Right?
when it's
Practical idealism, it's idealistic but also practical.
right, but idealism also involves seeing, I mean, and to me, it's seeing the moreness.
Yeah.
And if you see the moreness, it is there. It's just that not it may not be in a form that is practical yet, and
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
so there is an aspect of that that involves seeing something that may not be visible right now. uh,
Mm, mm.
but there's a difference between seeing something that is real but it's just not visible yet. That's one thing. And then another thing is just kind of making up stuff, and
You're right.
that's those are two different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Uh, would you say sometimes we have to make up stuff
I don't know.
because what we need and what we want doesn't exist yet. It hasn't been imagined yet.
Well, that's true. That is true.
Like the self-conception of practical idealists.
Right. But I tend to
Sometimes
think,
we have to make it up, right?
but I think that it's been there. It just wasn't
Yeah.
visible.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, blah, 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 blah. It's okay to look ahead and try to improve ourselves, but we really can't expect others to change or do something to meet our expectations just
Mm,
because that's what we want. We can
yeah.
only be responsible for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I said, yeah, and I was just kind of categorizing expectations that mom and Erica had of me when I married Phil,
Mm.
expectations that I had of them at that time,
Mm.
and also, of course, of Phil. And
Mm.
it really became a giant mess because none of us really talked about what our expectations were. um,
Yeah.
and then you get disappointed in the other
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they are not fulfilling your expectations,
Right.
and they didn't even know that that was an expectation.
Yeah.
So um, my mom expected me to live with her for the rest of her life. um,
Who expected you to live? Your mom expected you to live with her for the rest of her life.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that an astonishing expectation?
Well, it is. It is. But
Yeah.
my grandmother came to live with us um, when I was a teenager, and then my brother and I grew up, moved away, and my mom and grandmother lived together and forever. And then um, my mom took care of her when she was, really got old. Um, and I know that that was her expectation of me, that I was going
yeah,
to. And I used to say, she just wanted me to sit on the sofa and watch Jeopardy with her. And, that was going to be my life. That's what she wanted. And she really felt that that's what a daughter should do. And, we talked around it, but we never really sat down and talked about how that made me feel or how I could help her with what she needed without totally sacrificing every part of my life, and all of that. And we really just didn't talk it through very well. But she was very resentful of the fact that I did not want to do that, and um so I think that, combining that with her bad experience that she had with my dad and her dad, and it just made her have that expectation that I, should not be in a marriage relationship. And for her,
when did this realization come?
oh, for me, it came a long time ago. um, it, I don't even remember, but she really worked hard. And, I know she did that. I mean, we've talked about this before. I
Yeah,
know she
yeah,
did that. Uh, Part of it was that she wanted me to be with her. I mean, part of it was a
yeah,
selfish thing, but part of
yeah,
it was caring for me and not wanting me to get hurt and, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But whenever my expectations or wishes were different from hers, she took offense.
Mm,
For her, if different meant that I was saying she was wrong. She
mm.
just did not have a
Yes, yes, yes.
never
Mentality of
fruit.
opposites. There's no difference. It's either
Right.
right or wrong.
And she
Everything.
was
Yeah,
just, that's what I said. She had a very strong sense of absolute right and wrong. And um, and
yeah,
I,
yeah,
in her mind, was a bad daughter because I did not choose to do things exactly the way she did. And
yeah,
um,
yeah,
she
yeah.
lived with her mom. Um, and I, the fact that I didn't want to do that was made me wrong. I was
Yeah.
wrong.
So,
And,
she lived with her mom how long?
well, my grandmother moved in with us when my family moved away to Ohio when I was in high school, and um, she came with us, and um, she lived with my mom until she passed away, which was um,
Wow. So when she got married, how did that work?
oh, no, 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 no.
Oh,
Uh, no, um, my mom, got married when she was really young, um, got divorced, and then, I mean, I remember at the time that my mom got divorced, my grandmother wanted all of us, to come and live at her house.
hmm, hmm.
And it was a little tiny house in a not a great part of town anymore. And my mom said no, and we lived in an apartment. And then my mom got um, a different job, and they moved us to Ohio. And so
Hmm.
my grandmother didn't want to just be by herself down in Oklahoma. So she came with us, and then she just lived with us, ever after that. And my mom never remarried.
Oh,
And so the two of them, they're the ones that bought the house that I am living in now
hmm.
when I was in college. And so they lived, my grandmother was 80, I can't remember, 86 maybe when she passed away.
No.
And so, they just lived together and so after I went to
Yeah.
college, after my brother, went to college and all that, um, it was just the two of them, and they just hung out together, and you know, whatever. And
Yeah.
just my mom felt that that's what I should do, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but that was an expectation that she had of me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know,
A bubble expectation.
oh yeah, absolutely,
It's
absolutely,
fascinating. It's fascinating how these expectations can be much like full unrealistic because they're in a bubble. They don't
right.
consider the bigger picture.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that is the
Yeah.
thing. A lot
Yeah.
of times, and that's why I said expectations are often really assumptions. We're
Yes.
we're in a
Yes.
bubble, and we are seeing things from this perspective, and then and but this whole thing, that whole aspect of things, is why I struggle so much with being with Erica and Joe. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the same. It's not the same thing, but and it's just something I have to kind of work through,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
opposed to that, and I was so opposed to the assumption of that, and don't
Yeah.
I don't ever want to put that on them. I
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool, Kay. Very cool.
um,
Also, what people believe they are okay with and what they actually are when you implement it practically two different things.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right,
So, it's not that they saying it's okay that you live with them. They absolutely believe it, but then you have the practical reality of it, and that's a different thing.
right.
So, and you're aware of that, and this is really cool. This is very
Right.
very cool. Yeah.
It is interesting, and I think it's a great thing that we
Yeah.
are kind of going through and figuring out,
Yeah.
and it's just something in my family that's been there for a long time that has
Yeah.
not been very healthy.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'm reading what I wrote, and I did actually write all that. I said there is an expectation in our family that generations will remain extremely close,
Mm.
which I don't think there's anything wrong with being close,
No.
but you know, um, that the relationship will remain the same despite getting married and having kids. It really
That's the
can't,
peculiar part.
right. It can't remain the same. It really can't.
No. No.
And it shouldn't. But my
Right.
question for me is, okay, what should it be? Because
Yeah.
I haven't been in a family that has a normal relationship
Right.
between
Right.
adult children and their parent. What should my relationship with Eric and Joe be like? I have
Is that a
wanted,
valid question? The should.
well, should for me.
So that's in other words, what would I like it to be?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to change that.
Yeah. 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 It does change it considerably
Yes,
because now you're bringing in what would I like it to be, and now you bring in all your ethics, your impeccability, your integrity, your awareness. All of this comes in because, well, your grandmother and your mother had expectations, but they were completely bubble selfish and limited awareness expectations. Oh, I just expect you to stay with me. It's not realistic.
right,
It's impractical, and it's just according to what they want, not what you want.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, I'm going to read what I wrote here. I'm trying to see where
Mm,
what would I like my relationship with Eric and Joe to be like? Oops, I left out a word. To
mm,
like. I have wanted so much for so long to not do what my mom did to me, but here I
mm,
am. It must be my responsibility to keep things in balance.
mm, mm.
One of the reasons that I wanted to get married when I got married to Phil was to have my own life when Eric was
That's why I
young.
started laughing.
I
Sorry,
know
I saw it
it
coming.
did work out. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted a close relationship with Erica, but not to be dependent on her. I wanted her to have her own life and me to have mine, but to
Yeah.
remain very close in a good way. My motivation was good, but my choice of a partner was not.
Mm, mm.
Um, and really, I wasn't ready to be a partner myself. Um,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
were all kinds of crazy expectations that mostly remained unspoken unless finally said in hurt or anger. Uh,
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that inappropriate marriage was that the motivation was somewhat inappropriate. You weren't necessarily only marrying Phil to be married. You were marrying to get away from living in your mother all the time.
well, I had actually moved out. We had moved out.
Oh,
Erica and I had
or at
moved.
least not to get stuck in that. Yeah.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really important and really hard piece of that puzzle. We moved into an apartment that was actually really close to my mom's house. But
Mm,
oh
mm.
my, that was a huge.
Yeah,
That was-
and you know that if you don't get a husband, the next thing is why are we living in two houses when we can live in one?
oh yeah, oh yeah. That
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was definitely discussed. I mean, it was it was really a big thing, and but it was absolutely necessary, a necessary step to take.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Brilliant, brilliant.
and I did not just marry Phil because I wanted to get away from my mom. I didn't just marry
Right, right, right,
because
right,
I
right.
wanted um, to have my own life with Erica or whatever. I mean, I I really liked him. I really loved him, and I really wanted to be married. But um, those things were in there. They were part of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's one of those choices I made that was less than stellar.
Right,
You
right.
know, um, I said I probably shouldn't have gotten married until Erica was grown. I definitely shouldn't have gotten married without lots of discussion about expectations, about our relationship, how it would change, how it would be the same. This is me and Erica.
Mm,
I
mm.
think I should have, as her mom, and she was only 15, I should have talked to her and thought about together, how is this going to change our life? How is this going to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because I mean, we just jumped in and she just, found herself.
yeah. Well, you jumped in and she had to jump with you.
She had to jump with me. Exactly. We should have talked about what each of us needed and wanted and how we could help and support each other through the changes. But we did not. And again, assumption, I made assumptions. I assumed that um, since it was, I thought it was something good for me, that it was going to be good for everybody, and
Mm,
because I was happy about it, I assumed everybody else would be happy about it. And, didn't turn out to be the case.
yeah.
Um,
Assumptions of similarity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's funny thing about that. It doesn't work.
No,
um,
no.
I said, I'm sure Erica expected our relationship to be the same. She was a kid, and it's understandable why she would have thought that. Of course, it couldn't be exactly the same. If I was married, I would not have the exact same relationship that I had with her when I was not married. It just wouldn't be. I mean, just even time, would make it not the same. Uh,
Right, right.
but it should have been much closer to the same, at least in all the important ways. And I should have asked her what ways were the most important to her. I jumped in the deep end of the shark tank, not knowing what I was getting myself or her into. I didn't do a good job of protecting her or myself, and I should have. Once I saw that we were in a shark tank, I should have gotten us out right away. It's somewhat understandable why I didn't. Um, I wanted marriage. I wanted it for myself. I wanted a dad for her. Um, and in a lot of ways, I actually was really happy in the situation. There were many things about it that were really great from my perspective. Uh,
mm, mm,
but and I also kept thinking that the problems and the issues were my fault, not Phil's, but mine, and that it would get better. And that's the impractical idealist part of me that was coming out.
mm, mm.
All of that makes sense, but it doesn't explain why I didn't talk more with her. She felt abandoned and betrayed by the most important person in her life. I can rationalize and make excuses for why this happened, but it doesn't change the fact that it did. Um, I can't change what happened, but I can learn from it and do better. I can take
Exactly.
responsibility, apologize, and try my best not to do it again. And
Mm,
I can forgive myself.
mm.
It is what it is. I can't change the past except to revise it in my present.
Yes, yes, and to honor it by changing.
Right.
Mm,
Which is, we talked about that last time.
mm,
So, I'm just kind of starting to think about all the different expectations. But it's, if you zoom out, you can see that you have to be responsible for your own expectations. You have to be responsible for recognizing that other people are not um, are not responsible for meeting your expectations. And I love the idea of the fluidity and flexibility and adaptability. I can have expectations, but I need to be able to adjust them
yes,
and not be disappointed if someone else doesn't do what I consider to be their part. Um, First of all, it's only my consideration that it's their part, and if they don't do what I think ought to happen, then and even for myself, if I look at myself and my expectations of myself, if
hmm,
I don't always meet all of my own expectations, um, that's okay. I can,
yeah,
I, it's part of the deal, and you just make adjustments and, move on. So, um, anyway, that's kind of what I've been thinking about all of that stuff. So I'm writing a little bit more here. Well, okay. So, something I wanted to talk to you about. Uh,
hmm,
I've been working on all of this stuff. I haven't gone forward yet with the modules.
hmm.
I, I kind of wanted to stop and look at that.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem.
I feel like right this very moment, I've got so many things happening with the apartment, with Christmas, with I have different things that I'm having to take care of that are kind of year end things with
Hmm.
my house and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like I would like to take a little bit of time, like
Perfect.
maybe wait until like after Christmas.
Sure, sure.
To-
Um, we can just leave the appointments up. If you come, you come. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. I'll just leave
okay,
them open. It's not a
well,
problem. How's that?
I don't want to.
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, I also don't want to make you think that I don't think it because it is super important, but it's so important, and I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not really
No, no. It's so important. You want to give it full attention, but that's not feasible right now. So I fully get it. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I love it. I think it's magical.
okay. Good,
Very, very cool.
good.
Very cool. Very
I'm
cool. I
going to
love that.
go. I think either maybe this afternoon, but probably tomorrow morning. I'm going to go home for several days and
Ah, perfect.
partially give those guys a break from having me around and do some things at
Mm,
my house that I think need to get done. So, and there's some things in Oklahoma City that I need to do. So, um,
perfect,
I,
perfect.
uh,
So as appropriate, in other words, I love it. I love it. I think
okay,
that's
okay.
very
Well,
cool.
if that works for you, that would be great.
Oh, it totally works for me. No
Okay,
problem. No problem. Yeah,
okay, all
yeah.
right.
I love that. So where are we in the modules? At the
In the modules, I am at, let's see where I am. I think we finally finished uh, module. Let me see where it is. Module 6, session 1
okay. All
is
right. So
doing.
we did do the end of, or we did get to the task on it. Yeah.
Let's see where we are.
I don't think so. That's
No,
why
I
I'm
don't think
wondering.
we did. No, make a note of your habits and routines and how
Hmm.
you've been disrupting them. No, I did not do it. I guess I got to the
Okay. Okay.
up.
That's fine. That's good. That would be a good connecting point. Then we, when we pick it up again, wherever we just go where you were on your, go over the slides on the last thing, and then the task, and then that would be a connecting point
Okay,
to pick it back. So
okay, that'll be
perfect,
perfect.
perfect, perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's so
No problem.
interesting. It's
No
so
problem.
interesting to me how the modules
Hmm.
fit. I mean, and I've said this
Yeah,
before. I can see
yeah,
how the course has been set up to lead you to the next thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but the other thing that's so interesting to me is how when you're thinking about something, information about that will come from all kinds of other unexpected sources, and I will,
Yes,
I was
yes.
listening to the President Obama thing. I mean, he was talking exactly about what we were
Yeah, yeah,
talking.
yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
really
magical.
cool. It's
It's
really
magical.
interesting.
It's
It's nice.
magical.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, okay, I think that's kind of all I have
No worries. That's
put together.
perfect. There's
Yeah.
never, we adapt and we don't need to fill the 2 hours. And that's the other thing. If you want to come on and it's only for a few minutes, that's no problem.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
if I'm always doing, I have always other stuff that I can do that I am doing, but it doesn't mean I'm not here. So
Right.
I just leave Zoom up anyway, so it doesn't
Okay.
matter. So,
Okay. Well, that will be awesome. That will be
yeah,
perfect.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
I mean, the Zoom has been up since, well, I don't know, since whenever I was up, so it's just how I do.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Work-
because Ryan was going to come at 5 o'clock, but then he didn't make it because he had problems with the baby, and they anyway. So and then yeah, it's just part of how I do. It's open, so I like that. It's nice. But I have the time set aside for you.
Well,
And it's set aside anyway. I can't really do anything else with it because it's your time. So might
okay.
as well leave Zoom up,
All right.
right?
Okay. All right. Well, that will be
Yeah,
really helpful, I think.
yeah,
And
yeah.
uh, so I'm going to
It's
go
nice.
ahead and go.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
yeah.
downstairs and
Sure, sure.
get some lunch. And I
Right.
don't know if Erica's probably eating lunch right now, so
Yeah,
she may
yeah,
not be
yeah.
ready.
Okay.
So her.
Well, she can tell her she can come early if she wants.
Yeah, I will.
So the other thing I wanted to say is just in this time, uh, until we get back onto doing more regular again,
Right.
to really, really focus on the application and the implementation. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Right. That's it. You're playing name that app, implementation, application, and
Right.
using, and this is going to be fun. Like when you watched President Obama, you were
Right.
playing name that app, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
application, implementation, name that app. Yeah. And then
Okay.
also, your writing, your stories.
Right. Right.
So good time for them too. Good time for them too.
All right.
So
Sounds
yeah,
good.
keep up your journaling. In other words. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, that is so helpful to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Which is taking notes on life.
right. Exactly.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
All
All
right.
right. Fantastic.
Okay.
I love it, Kay. I love it. That's
Well,
brilliant. That's brilliant.
thank you.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, absolutely a pleasure. Very cool. I love it. I really enjoy our sessions, so I look forward to them again soon.
Oh, good. All right. Well,
Again,
me.
like I say, I like the openness. That it's not a hard and fast thing. You want to come, I have a long, short. Doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see if I can stop sharing my screen. There we go. And then
Yeah.
we do this. All right. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Perfect. All right. Bye bye. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.